That's what technology was created for women. Women can bug the fuck out of you now. You can't do anything without them. I Facebooked you, I emailed you, I tweeted you. Where are you? You know what I mean? Ugh, fucking. I grew up in Chicago, Illinois, born in Nebraska, grew up in Chicago, you know. Went to high school called Lane Tech High School, biggest high school in Chicago. Then went to University of Illinois, graduated, studied psychology. Then I started doing comedy.
How does a psychology degree help with this?
I think I'm beyond my bachelor's, man, because every day, every time you do a show, it's always psychological. The reason why people laugh is psychological, whether it's nostalgia, whether it's racial, whether it's, it has to do with sexual activity. It's all psychological on why you take a joke in and laugh at it. Each person takes a joke in and interprets it a certain way. And and sometimes tricking an audience into laughing, you have to use psychology. You got to learn how to deal with people who don't like what you're doing. You got to learn to deal with people who heckle. I've used it to its full extent. I think I'm PhD now. I should be Dr. Godfrey. You deal with, especially in New York, you're gonna deal with Philly too, Philadelphia, these kind of cities that are racially tense, and you know what I mean? Everybody's passionate about everything, whether it's sports, race, politics. It's all, you're using psychology all the time. So, because we're salesmen. Where you bring your product to people and you say, here's my product. You like it? You're doing that. So you're basically psychologically psychologically using psychology. No, you're using psychology methods when you laugh, so make people laugh. Because you're usually, with the psychology, so in stand-up comedy, you're always using psychology. You're always using it. Every show you do, something's different. And you're also using psychology on yourself because you're like, you got to psych yourself out. You got to find ways to make these people laugh, even if you don't feel like it. Sometimes a joke that you're not even confident with, if you believe in the joke, you can literally pull it off. It depends, So
is that the best part of the job for you?
When it works, man. When jokes work is the best part. I don't like when it doesn't work. It makes you get cotton mouth. Cotton mouth is that dry. But the best part is when jokes work and they're put together right, and when people come after and say, man, that was brilliant. I love that. That's why I love doing British audiences, because they'll say brilliant regardless. It doesn't mean you're smart. They just say brilliant as a description of, oh, that was brilliant. I'm like, yes.
Here's a new question I've been asking about everybody. What's the best piece of advice that you've gotten along the way?
The best piece I got from Seinfeld and Cosby and Bernie Mac too. I was fortunate. Bernie used to always say, stay versatile, he always used to tell me, don't always look, he always used to say, don't always look for a standing ovation, always just be conversational, and don't always, because a lot of comics try to look for that standing ovation, and when you do that, you're forcing your comedy, especially starting out in the black circuit in Chicago. I was doing Bernie Mac's room. I was doing both circuits, and he always used to say, all these young comics, they're trying to do standing ovation, so they'll reach for any kind of joke that'll please the crowd. He says, always be true to yourself, and don't always worry about the standing ovation. It'll come whenever you deserve it. Seinfeld always told me that the important thing sometimes is, he told me not to always laugh at my joke, to sometimes be mad serious about it. And that adds more to the joke, because he watched me do it. He said, yeah, I noticed you laugh at some of your jokes. He goes, sometimes don't always laugh at your jokes. Sometimes just like kind of be serious about it. That was a cool advice. And he always said too, also, if you want to think about your experience as a comedian in years, think about you as a child. A comedian has been doing comedy 5 years as a 5-year-old. A comedian has been doing comedy 10 years as a 10-year-old. He said, that'll keep you in perspective. So I've been doing comedy 16 years, and I'm a 16-year-old. So I'm not shit. I'm garbage. If you look at someone like Cosby, who's been doing it 50 plus years, he gets it. And Cosby told me that his advice when I was an audience coordinator on his last Cosby show, he told me, always writing. Writing is the key. Always write. Make sure you're always writing, continuously writing to keep your stuff fresh, to keep your stuff, because you get so much from writing, you know. However you write. Some people write word for word, but he said always just keep jotting things down, keep writing. And he also said, look at the word show business. Always concentrate on the bigger word, business. He said, show business is short for show me the business. Always take care of your business. And then he went, and he's from Philly, right? You see, you got to put it on the paper, and then you start to write, and then you put it in, and then you say, and then you put it in the, and you see in the bar, and then you put it on the thing, and then and then, that's how he was talking to me. Within that advice, he still was Cosby-esque. You know, I just heard the music going on. You know? But he gave me that advice, so that was cool.
I mean, so boilerplate question. I mean, what inspired you to want to do this film?
Let's see. Watching a lot of television. My mother, being immigrants, my mother was a big television watcher. Our whole family was, and that's why I'm really expansive in my knowledge of television. I watched a lot of old classic movies. I watched a lot of classic stuff. Lucille Ball, I mean, you know, Lucille Ball, Three Stooges. You know, you watched, let's see, Three Stooges, you watch old film classics, you know, Flip Wilson. I grew up on a lot of stuff. Johnny Carson was a big hero of mine. And just to see other comedians come on the show, that's what a lot of that inspired me, but I wasn't, when I was little, I didn't say I was going to be a comedian. I liked it, but it was when I was in college that I said, oh, I think I want to try this comedy thing, you know? And I had Tommy Davidson came and he did a concert at my college, and I was like, I hung out with him, and that's when I really got inspired. I said, I'm going to try it. So after college, I went to an open mic. You know what I'm saying? It was the scariest shit ever. If you ever want to clear your bowels, do stand-up comedy for the first time.
So is it like getting a fix? Or?
It was a fix. It was like once I started and I finally got my feet wet, whatever. I was like, this is where I need to be, because I'm a talkative person. I'm opinionated. I hate a lot of shit. I like a lot of shit. And comedy to me was the best form for a guy like me. I can't sit in class and pay attention long. I'm restless, you know, and I have a lot of energy. So I thought that this was the perfect, and so far it's worked out. Up and downs, but pretty much worked out so far.
Definitely. So, Black by Accident, I mean,
yeah.
How would you describe your brand of comedy?
My brand of comedy is comedy that's for everybody, you know. Black by Accident actually describes what I am as a performer, actor, whatever. I'm just one of those dudes that I happen to know, because, you know, when you see a black comedian, people think black comedy, a lot of times audiences expect certain subjects. Spanking, we were so poor, give it up for the black women. The black ladies, you know, it's always those black subjects. Church, you know, and I talk about church, but I talk about growing up in the Catholic church, because I did. You know, Africans and Caribbean, they're Catholic. They love the Catholic church. I wasn't, hallelujah, praise the Lord. I was opposite of that. So my Black by Accident, sometimes even when I see black audiences, whenever I used to do my comedy, I would always say something different than what most of the comics were talking about. Because I have immigrant parents, I mean, and people were like, oh man, you ain't from the ghetto. I said, first of all, Africa is a worse ghetto than American ghettos. So American ghettos ain't shit compared to Africa, you know what I mean? You got cats that stand on the corner, but in Africa, there are no corners. There's no cement laid down. It's just a dirt patch, you know what I mean? But I mean, that's why Black by Accident is so significant. It's because I would always say things that were opposite of what I look like. Because people judge you aesthetically. They go, oh, it's a black comic. We're going to hear the typical. That's why when people come to see my show, if it's like a white audience majority, or I don't want them to feel, is this going to be a black show? No, they're going to be like, oh, this was funny. This was funny, but it wasn't black. Because one thing I don't like is, as a black comedian, when there's a white audience, I don't want them to laugh because they're uncomfortable and they feel that, oh, we're uncomfortable, and they laugh from being uncomfortable. I want them to laugh because they relate to you, like you're literally funny. I don't want no affirmative action laughter. You know what I mean? I want to earn my shit. I don't want affirmative action. Oh, well, he's black and he's Negro and very urban. No, I don't want anybody laughing at me. I want them to laugh with me. And I would rather sacrifice people being upset at me because I'm a smart dude and not going into that, that what people want is a stupid black mentality. I don't want to be laughed at. And I wasn't raised that way, and I will never be that way. I want people to respect me as a comedian, respect me as an intelligent guy, and I want to treat everybody equally. I want you to look at me equally, not there's a black dude tap dancing up there and let's just be no. I want people to laugh because they go, I related to you, and it wasn't about some uncomfortable race dynamic. That joke was funny, period. That's why when I talk about my dad, it's an equalizer across the board, because everybody experienced their father telling them, giving them advice. They experienced the immigrant situation. Whether you're not even an immigrant, if you're in America, you experience hardworking parents that want the best for their kids. And that's what I try to convey, period. It's like all that black, I don't give a shit. Whether I talk about black, whether I talk about Asian, whether I talk about politics, whatever, I want it to just be funny, and it's just my take on life. It's not my black take on life. It's my take on life, man. Period. Of course I have a black perspective, because you know what? Society has given me a black perspective. I didn't know I had a black perspective until somebody hated what I looked like. You know what I mean? I had a perspective. I didn't have a black one because society gave me that. Society made me feel I was a certain way and different. So then all of a sudden it reversed. Now I have a black perspective because of the society, but if there was no such thing as racism, we all just have a perspective. You know what I mean? So that's where that's come from.
Well, and you have a global perspective.
And that's the thing about it too, is the international aspect. One thing about my father, he always made sure we grew up around multicultural areas or predominantly white. He always wanted us to be in reality. The global thing was just being African. Our music-wise, I grew up. I had relatives that were musicians in Nigeria, very famous musicians. We were always around music, art. We went to, we looked at the world, from everywhere. We were always aware of other countries because our relatives we had relatives in London, relatives in South Africa, all over. So we weren't just American-centric. We were always like, oh, there's Africa, there's London, you know what I mean? So I always want to be able to be global. That's why I can go overseas. A lot of comedians, especially in New York or those places where there's a lot of immigrants, they can always travel overseas and do their comedy and not even change. You know what I mean? Because that's what it's about now. You got YouTube, you got Twitter, you can talk to somebody in China like you're talking to them down the street. Why should your comedy be local? When nowadays it's international. With YouTube, people all over the world watch you. People all over. I get comments from Scandinavia, from Middle East, people who are big fans of mine. I did a show in Beirut about 1.5 years ago. They knew who I was already by the YouTube. So why wouldn't you want to speak internationally? Why wouldn't you want to be global? That's the dumbest shit to be, is not to be global. You're on a globe. Why not be that? You know what I'm saying?
Well, and one of your most popular clips on YouTube was like a Indian TV show or something, right?
It's a show called Comedy Factory and Rhyme Is Lot. The guy that hosts it looks Indian, but he's from Suriname, which is a Dutch colony in South America. So they're mixed with black, Indian, Dutch. So he looks like a black dude, an Indian dude, an Asian guy, all in one. And he speaks Dutch. They're the Surinamese or the Black Dutch. So see, that's the reason why I know that, because when you travel, you want to be able to know this kind of thing. So no matter where you go, there's never a problem. No matter who's in the audience, I don't feel uncomfortable because I can relate to them. And I'm not going to go, hey, I'm a black man, laugh at me. No, I'm going to be like, yeah, I'm a black man, but I'm a human being, and I'm going to convey this to you real quick.
Well, so it's no coincidence then that you would end up doing audience at Cosby, warming up the Cosby Show.
Right. It's not a coincidence because it was packed with all kinds of people, and Cosby is the king of universal comedy. You can literally do Bill Cosby overseas and they go crazy because Cosby, if you look at the Cosby Show, that was when I thought black people were progressive, when they were really moving on. Like, the Cosby Show was so brilliant. I mean, you talk about a guy who took a whole network and made it #1 overnight. It was in 3rd place, and Cosby Show was one of those things where they didn't believe that a black man could be a lawyer and a black woman could be a doctor and a lawyer in one house, which I had friends whose parents were doctors and lawyers, black, but Cosby really broke that open and said, yeah, we do live like this. And there are plenty of black people that live like this. You got black doctors associations, lawyers, and it's just amazing how, you know, the shows now don't convey that. Like, it's like we've taken a step backwards. I'm not calling anybody's name out, but the sitcoms now that we are in are terrible, terrible. I watch Cosby now and I just smile. I go, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's the kind of thing I want to do. I don't necessarily want to be Cosby because I'm a different kind of comedian, but I want that same level of respect. You know, because I always say, what would it be like if someone called Cosby a nigger? What would it be like? I bet you even a Klan member would feel bad calling Cosby a nigger because he's so dignified. That's like calling Oprah a nigger. It doesn't even seem right. It doesn't even sound right. You know, it doesn't even sound right. That's how dignified Oprah, Cosby, Obama, and all these guys, Cornel West, all these guys, calling them a nigger from a white man's mouth would be the dumbest thing in the world. They probably see the words coming out of their mouth and stop the letters from coming out because that's how dignified they are. It wouldn't even make sense. Even, you know what I mean? So that's the level I would like to be at, you know? So,
I mean, what do you think happened? At one point, Cosby and Richard Pryor were sort of on equal footing, and there were lots of black comedians in general, that would pattern themselves after those two, and maybe Carlin as well. I mean, at a certain point, it seemed like there was a template for black comedy, and it hasn't really changed.
Well, I think that also, if we look at the history of comedy with Cosby started in the 60s, you know, Philadelphia. He went in the 60s in the Village in New York City, because one of his albums he did at the bitter end in 1963 was called Cosby's a Really Funny Guy. And he won Grammys. He has like 5 Grammys for his different albums. And Richard Pryor followed Cosby in New York City in the 60s and wanted to be Cosby. He got on Ed Sullivan. He wanted to be clean. And then eventually Richard Pryor had to go, well, I wasn't raised like him. I mean, I grew up with prostitutes. My father molested me, Peoria, Illinois. I had a horrible childhood, you know? And so he started to separate himself from Cosby and called himself the crazy nigga. That was in 1971 where he made that transition. If you ever see this DVD called Live and Smoking, it's April 29th, 1971. He's at the Improv Comedy Club and he's bombing, but he's talking about himself. Like, man, my mother used to make money, you know, giving blowjobs and all this. I mean, but that was Richard. But Richard was able to get a foundation from Cosby. That's why Cosby really is the king. Because people learn from Cosby, you know? And Cosby wasn't, his comedy was colorless. It wasn't a black, and when you look at Cosby, who was the first person to be on a network television show, I Spy. You know, you look at Cosby, you think that everything came easy to him. But it actually didn't, because Cosby, the producer of the Dick Van Dyke Show, Sheldon Leonard, who was an actor, pushed for Cosby to be on I Spy because they didn't want him. And so Cosby was still a guy, they were like, nah, and you don't get any better than that. And so he had to fight for that. So then Richard Pryor was like more of for especially black comedians, a lot of black comedians that come from like the poor neighborhoods. But still, Cosby came from the projects of Philly still. But he was able to take a different road, a more educated road. Richard Pryor was a street dude. The hustlers understood him. And a lot of black comics started to model themselves after that, you know. And like the guys like the Dick Gregory's, no one gives any credit to Dick Gregory on how he broke ground in the 60s, sitting in a suit on a stool talking to white audiences with a cigarette, being that relaxed. He wasn't jumping up and down. He was subtlety. That was another guy who was black subtlety. Cosby was subtlety, but you think of black comedy as like we're always jumping around and being real loud, and that's a shame. And then when you get a comic when you see some comedians that are subtle and don't have to jump around for a joke, you know, we finally get the respect of, wow, black people can actually write jokes and not have to act them out all the time. You know what I mean? And that's a shame, because a lot of times when you're in the black comedy circuit, which I was, you always had to do physical. Everything was physical. Everything, you had to act everything out. The joke wasn't even well written out. But if you acted it out, you did enough gyrations and stuff, people were like, oh man. But if you had somebody that was subtle, black people automatically called you corny, because you were actually using your brain. You're like using your brain. Why don't you guys think about this? And black people, and it's our fault, because we would get mad at somebody that was trying to step outside of the box. You know what I mean? And I think that's why it hasn't changed. You know, the black comedy hasn't really changed. People still see it as this ignorant, loud, because I blame it on the comedians that let the audience determine what they should be. And I know there's a lot of black comics out there that want to do different shit. They want, man, I want to do some smart shit, but they're so afraid that they want to do well. Because black comedy is immediate satisfaction. You know, you go to a mainstream comedy club, you can think out jokes. You know the joke's going to get better later. You know, but black comedy, you got to do it now. We want it now. We're like crackheads. We're literally like crackheads. I need a quick fix. But in the long run, it does you damage. You know what I mean? And I was able to always stand my ground and go, I'm not going to cater to you. I'm not going to let somebody tell me how to do my comedy. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to stick with what I stick with, because funny is funny, which people got to understand. It don't matter what you are. And what's sad is I've seen white comics do black shows, and they'll patronize black people, and black audience will be laughing at everything. Then a brother will come up and do some very intelligent shit, and they're booing that person. But they just laughed at the white dude that was acting black. That's how twisted we are. That is how twisted black people are. It's a fucking shame that we keep doing this, and it's no different than any like young black kid that wants to do better in his neighborhood, and his friends are like, man, fuck that, that's whack, that's whack. We're so caught up. You know, the funny thing is, so much stuff has changed. Like, you look at China becoming the new financial power, you see all these things changing in the world, but black ignorance is the only thing that stayed in style. It's the same shit all the time. It's a little tiring, it's a little boring. We need to change that. I'm tired of our excuses, and even about comedy. That's why a lot of black comics are fucking stagnant, because the black audiences are still laughing at the same tired shit. If they would just like sometimes let the black comics that do that hacky shit, let them bomb, let them eat their asses, and then they'll learn to do other jokes. You know what I mean? It's like, because there's an audience in the black community that wants intelligent stuff. There's a lot of black college grads. There's a lot of older black people that want dignity in their comedy. There's an audience waiting for that, man. And you don't have to jump in a dress to make them laugh. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying I'm not trying to be on the soapbox or anything.
That's good. Hollywood, we'll get into your Hollywood career for a second. I mean, just leaving it open as just Hollywood. I mean, what's the state of Hollywood? What's your relationship to Hollywood?
Okay. Militant. No, I'm not going to be militant. I don't think that was militant. I'm just being for real.
No, I think it's true. I mean, you're speaking the truth, so it's undisputable until we bring up soul playing.
Oh no, I'll tell them, I'll explain my soul playing. I'll explain exactly the period of time when which it happened. Nobody was working that time. I hadn't gone on an audition in like 8 months. I hadn't seen a script, nothing. And this came up. Everybody and their mama read for soul playing. Do not let these motherfuckers fool you. Everybody was in there going, I ain't got no weapons. You remember that? Hollywood show. I ain't got no weapons, man. So yeah.
So there was a period of time, hopefully we're through it. Soul playing.
Cookout, Fat Girls. I was in Original Gangsters in '96 with Pam Grier, Richard Roundtree, Ron O'Neal. I did that movie. That was awesome.
I mean, you're pretty set up guy. I mean, you pass auditions.
I auditioned for everything I got. I auditioned for. You know what I mean?
Wait, say it right now.
Say what?
Isn't it everything you auditioned for you got?
Yeah, everything I auditioned for, I got, you know. I didn't get it handed to me. You know, I don't have family in the business, you know. So I got it on my own steam, so, you know.
Okay, so, I mean, on one hand, like, I get it, like, on stage, you are in control.
Yes.
Completely. What
Yes.
comes out of your mouth is exactly what you want to say.
Yeah.
But then when you want to build your name up or become
Yeah.
a box office or whatever, you do
You got to play with yeah, you got to play along with the team. I mean, I don't have a problem with that, you know. And it's your choice. We chose this business, so it's your choice to choose what you want to go out for. You don't have to go to an audition. They just say, hey, you want a part, you got to go in, but you don't have to. You can just go, no, I don't want to go in. It's your choice. You have control. Your agents or managers, they work for you. They take 10% from you, so that's all they can say to you is 10%. You know, so as far as that, I mean, you try, like, who doesn't want to do a dignified movie? What black actor, I mean, you know, legitimate black actor doesn't want to do a movie where they look dignified? We all do. But sometimes the powers that be don't want that. They want you to be, you know, shucking and jiving and stuff. And like people say, well, you did Soul Plane. I said, you're damn right I did Soul Plane. First of all, I did Soul Plane because I wanted to hang out with Snoop Dogg. Okay. First of all, Snoop Dogg is by far one of the biggest figures, I'm talking about not just hip hop, in the world. You know what I mean? White, Asian, Hispanic, everybody loves Snoop Dogg. He's an international icon. Guess what I'm gonna do? Why don't I sit next to Snoop Dogg in a movie? You know, and another thing is, at that time we were reading for Soul Plane, my agents told me, he says that there's an ignorant ass movie called Soul Plane. It's a comedy. I said, well, let me check it out, because I hadn't auditioned in about half a year. So I was like, might as well. I hadn't done anything. And sometimes when you haven't auditioned in a long time, you need to, you know, to get the chops working. I said, all right, I'll go out for it. And every black, African-American, Negro, colored, whatever you want to call it, they were all out there reading for it, going, I ain't got no weapons, man. Everybody was auditioning for that. So when people go, it's because they didn't get the part. But everybody auditioned for it. A lot of people auditioned, models, everybody auditioned. And I was able to get it because in Soul Plane, I played the African pilot. And my thing, I did that on purpose. I said, hey, I'm gonna do an accent. Because I wanted it to be opposite of what everybody was doing. Everybody was going, motherfucker. That's why I'm black. That's why I'm always trying to change the game. Even within that, it stood out though. People still remember me from Soul Plane. It's a cult classic, and you know, it's something you can laugh at. And I would do another movie like that. But I would like to balance it off with intelligent movies too. See, white dudes do dumbass movies all the time. All the time. Having sex with pie, something with Anthony Hopkins, you know? It's like, there's a time and place for everything. But it seems like our place is always in the same bullshit ass movies all the time. It's like we have one place, everybody has a bunch of places, you know?
Okay. So winding it down. So what's the state of black film now? What needs to happen for it to keep growing?
I think that, I don't really know what the state of black film is. I always think that, you know, and it'll be cliche. Nowadays, it's cliche to, you know, for what we should say for the black community. You know, it's so cliche now, like to go, well, what we need to start doing is start funding our own movies. I mean, anyway, you know what I mean? A lot of black people don't even help each other. So anyway, you need to get a good white dude that's willing to help. I'm just saying, it's like, I don't want to be cliche. I don't want to be sharp. I don't want to sharpen anything. I don't want to Jesse Jackson. It relates to me. I think that, I mean, I go on auditions and stuff. I'm starting to try to create my own thing. You know, I have a great management team. I have a great, it's all about your team. It's all about the people you know, your network. I try to use the people that I know that I've collected over the years and just try to come up with something I think that suits me. Because I think that once you build an audience, they want to see you be yourself. They want to see what you hold true to yourself. And if it takes me taking a little longer and not doing anything demeaning to myself, then fine. But I think it's all about everybody self-creating now, because there's so many venues. You don't really look at music. Music, you know, a lot of the companies are falling because of YouTube, and nowadays it's the audience, the people are your decision makers now. And I think that the fact that we have YouTube, webisodes, stuff like that, now I'm finally getting into creating my own thing. having control of my own thing. And I really believe that with the team I have, that we'll be able to get stuff done where I have some control over it. You know, I'm not just waiting on somebody to give me something. You know, I learned that the hard way. I used to just go, I'm just gonna tell jokes and then things are gonna happen. And nowadays, you gotta have your hustle has to be different now. You gotta be a businessman, you gotta be your own agent almost. Because people don't really step outside the box anymore because people are afraid to take chances, afraid to lose their jobs. So you gotta be a one-man army. And then when you do stuff, then they all take the credit. That's how it goes.
Still have dreams of being an action star? I mean,
I would love to still be an action star, man, because you got, you know, the beautiful thing is you have stunt guys. So if someone needs to do a flip, I ain't gonna do that shit, you know? After he flips, I come back and I go, yeah! You know, I still wanna do action movies. I'd like to do dark comedies. I'd love to do, you know, I'd love to do all that. Drama, I really wanna do that. Television still, I'd love to do maybe a late night show, sketch. I love sketch. I can pretty much do a lot of different things, and I'm good at them. It's not like I'm trying to do 800 things and I suck. I'm not a, you know, jack of all trades and master of none. I think I have the skills to bring something different and refreshing to whatever medium, whether it's movies or, you know what I mean? I mean, you know, when I did Zoolander, I did a nice job in Zoolander. I think. So I'm just, you know what I mean? I'm just steady rolling, steady keeping the live act going. That's the beautiful thing about being a comedian. You can always reinvent yourself through your act. And, you know, with the Comedy Central special, can I say that now?
Absolutely.
The Comedy Central special, which is coming out tomorrow. No, Saturday, sorry. It's on.
Oh, I'm not going to edit it. So if I'm lucky, I edit it tonight.
Oh, but my Comedy Central special on Comedy Central, the hour special, you know, being able to do that is also a way of reinventing yourself. And you know what I mean? And after you do that, that's motivation to start creating other shows for yourself. And, you know, because everything that's been on TV is just an idea. Everything that's been around here, it's been an idea. And every idea has been shit on first. You know, imagine if, you know, when the Wright brothers were like, hey man, we're gonna make an airplane. That's preposterous. We have a railroad, beat it. You know, and now look we have airplanes, you know, I mean, so I take that the same way, inventions is the same way as creating your own show and believing in yourself. And I believe that something is gonna fall through. As far as my own and having control, that's the key for me. You know, get paid and shit, you know what I'm saying?
That's good. I like that. Let's make a story out of that idea. Like everything's an idea and like this would be like the opening the piece, just like catching the conversation on the way. You know, I like the concept, like everything's an idea first.
Yeah. People act like the shit was just already there. It was like, no, someone thought of it and they got shit on it first, and then someone said, all right, I have faith in you. Oh, you want me to start it off?
Yeah. Turn that into a story. Like either find an example of that. You know, like,
The Wright brothers?
I like that, and then connect it to the idea of like you're self-sufficient in your act.
I can say, you know, if you look at everything in life, from the automobile to buildings to the airplane, you gotta, sometimes as an artist, you really have to think like, you know what? That was an idea at one time. When the Wright brothers were in Kitty Hawk, they were like, hey man, you know what? I'm tired of all these trains. I think we can travel in the air. And you know they were getting shit on, like, yeah, whatever, preposterous, you know how they used to talk. That's preposterous. And you know what? Now we have airplanes, we have jets, but thank goodness it were people who were innovative and they thought outside the box and believed in themselves. And now everything you see is an idea. Everything was an idea. So as artists, sometimes, you know, we'll have an idea and we kind of don't believe in it, because they're so used to getting rejected in this business. But what's so funny is you see successful shows on TV, it was an idea. There were a lot of shows, I mean, even Sesame Street, the history of Sesame Street, it was not an easy idea. They argued about that. Children's programming, they didn't want it. They had a problem with Big Bird. They didn't know if it would scare the children. So everything was an idea. All these things that are so successful that people persevered with ended up being very successful. I mean, so, that's the same thing I do when I look at my comedy, you know, when I do, you know, an hour, half hour. It's all ideas, man. It's all stuff we made up and we believed in it. That's the great thing about comedy is it's immediate invention. You know, you do it, you don't have to patent it. Oh, that's my phone. Sorry. Should I cut it? Want to pause it? Just to be some black show because it's just, oh, I'm a black comic, so just automatically put black people on my show? No, I want guys, if they're black, they better have a different way of thinking. I want people to see that, to go, oh wow, these guys don't all think the same. And we gotta start doing that, start distinguishing black people, man. Not this same shit, man. This, come on.
All right, let's hit that. We got the open. So
Okay.
just give me a little on Black by Accident, like as it relates to the special, because we want people to watch the show.
Okay, Black by Accident is, it's just my 1 hour special. And it's just a title of how I think of the world. When I do things, I just happen to be black. I'm opposite of what I look like, because people automatically, when they see a black comic, they go, oh yeah, he's definitely gonna do these certain jokes. And I go, no, I'm talking about this. No, I'm talking about that. And so the Black by Accident is like, oops, I'm sorry, I just happen to be black. Because I go on people's misconceptions and stereotypes. That's actually is what's good for comedy, is what people have a notion about you, and then you throw them off. That's where the laughter to me is even more, has more of an impact. So that's what Black by Accident is. It's just basically my life, Black by Accident.
Now you project a lot of confidence when you're on stage. I mean, does your comedy come from a painful place, or are there things that you're afraid to talk about on stage?
My comedy comes from some insecurity, some narcissism. It comes from just, I always liked talking about shit. I was just naturally funny. I just liked performing in front of people. I didn't really have any painful childhood. My father and my mother raised me well. Maybe the only pain was from the spankings, the ass whoopings, but they knew how to do it. They knew how to do it without any bruising. They knew how to mafia style spank me. You know what I mean? Just internal bruising, you know what I mean? You're not gonna see no marks, just internal bruising. And it was great because I grew up pretty normal childhood. My parents made sure they tried their best to give us everything we wanted. Me, my brother, my sister, we went to good schools. I mean, my parents tried their best, man, and I wasn't traumatized as a kid. The only thing was maybe peer pressure stuff, but nothing. I never drank or smoked. So my comedy was just funny and observations of life and how I interpreted life, and they just ended up being funny. I was able to make people laugh,
Did you feel like an outsider? I mean,
because I was funny?
because of your appearance?
Well, my appearance, I mean, as far as, I had all kind of friends. I didn't feel like an outsider. Not really, I didn't really feel like an outsider not really, but being immigrant parents and you hang around Americans, like my black friends would sometimes you'll feel like an outsider among some whites that weren't really too familiar with blacks, and then you'd feel like an outsider with blacks who weren't familiar with black people that speak English. So, sorry. They would be like, you talk like a white dude, but I don't lie about my experience. See, black people can't get mad at me when I'm telling them the truth. It's like, this was told to me from black people. They would be like, yeah, you talk like a white dude. And I go, why are people giving some fictitious white man credit for the reason why I can speak English? My father was a teacher. My father made sure you didn't say ain't in the house. You can't say ain't. My father would be like, ain't is not a word. So you're gonna take all the credit that my parents busted their ass for and give it to some white man on a mountain, some white school that I went to learn English? No, my parents taught me English the proper way. You know what I mean? It's like I would get this from black people. Or I remember this one. I would get this from black women. Oh, you're cute to be dark skinned. I used to get that. That was our people. That was no one else. You know what I mean? That was no one else. No one else told me that. It was black women that told me that. I could easily be angry at them, but I'm not. I still love black women. You know what I mean? I have a legitimate reason to be like, I don't like black women. Because they were the ones that told me that. And I never heard that. You're cute to be dark skinned. I'm like, I'm African. We're dark people. You know what I mean? And so I grew up with uncles and aunts that were dark and proud. And all of a sudden I go outside and guys from Mississippi and Alabama are like, man, it was the dark thing all the time. So I don't lie about my experience. I have every right to talk about it because it happened to me. You know what I'm saying?
All right, last thing. So, I mean, this will be the only time that I can ask you this. Because you're on the verge of a big release coming out. Emotionally, where are you at?
I'm pretty like, I would say just, I'm even keel. You know, I'm happy and then I'm like weirding out, like it's surreal, like, all right, it's really happening. And I'm watching Comedy Central and they're showing the advertisement and like the title I made up is like actually like, it's like in lights, it's in a word, black by accident, it's real. I wrote it on the face, I said, black by accident would be funny. At first it was accidentally black, but then my friend from London was like, oh, I think it should be black by accident, it's much better. I was like, all right, we'll try. So it was like I created a phrase and it's actually legitimate now, it's sticking, it's like I did it, it's complete, you know, and I'm even keel, man. I want things to go well, don't get me wrong. And I do have fear of, you know, it not doing well, and I want it to do well. So it's just, I think it's a natural thing, and it's all yours. I wrote everything. It's all me. I created it. So I hope it catches on and does well, and it takes me to the next level. So I just cross my fingers and my toes, you know.
All right, I'm just thinking like 10 years ahead. What would be a good Godfrey question? Once y'all blowing up and now turning calls and shit.
Oh. Well, hopefully your cell phone will still be on, Dennis. Oh, no, the girlfriend will stab me. I think I'll still be with her, though. I think I'll still be with her if I stop making her mad all the damn time.
So are you a big believer in, like, we talked karma earlier, like, are you a big believer in, like, visualizing things and making...
Well, I believe in, you know what's so funny is, like, people say, well, if you visualize success, it'll come. But how come when you visualize things fucking up, it comes right away? You'd be like, "Watch, this ain't gonna be shit. I told you." How come karma comes so quickly when it's bad shit? But you'd be like, "Yo, I'm gonna be a millionaire." Not yet, you know. But when you go watch, man, I'm gonna lose all my money. Told you. I believe karma is true because I've done things in my life which weren't the best. And I've gotten it back at me tenfold. I mean, I've had stuff happen to me and I go, it has to be shit I've done to people. You know what I mean? And you learn your lesson. And I hope that my karma is clearing up. I don't know. We'll see. Because they say what you give out is what you get in return. And they say, just look at your situation. Something's going wrong. And I think I'm doing okay. I don't know. It's kind of the unknown. You don't know until you do it. It's like before, when you write a joke, you don't know if it's going to really be funny until you do it. You know, you don't know. You got to wait until it happens. You know, you can theorize all you want. You can prognosticate. Oh, yeah, it's going to be. You got to wait until it's done, and then that's what I go by. I'm used to, you know.
So you put the action in.
I put the action in. I put the product there. It's there. It's that out. It's up to the people to push it along, man, and that'll be great because, man, that does a whole lot for you when it does well, you know. Hey, this is Godfrey, and you're watching Reelblack.